I turned 23 years old today. What would be the best thing I could do for my birthday? Give a speech at 8 a.m. It's probably the best thing I could do. I want to ask you guys a question first. How many of you would say that technology plays a big role in the way you communicate with people on a daily basis? I want you guys to remember that. If there's one thing I want you guys to listen to, it's this right here. Communication and technology will forever be intertwined with each other, but it's our responsibility to get the best use out of it. Knowing that, I'm a communications major, so I like to think I know what I'm talking about. But the more I did this, the more passionate I became for it, and the more interested I was. And was actually something I want to take with me for the rest of my life. Knowing that, I want to get into evolution. For some reason, the first slide won't be there, but it's just a picture of evolution, essentially.
Okay, cool.
So, for evolution, everything evolves. We evolve. So does communication technology. After reading an article on Forbes.com from Sol Rogers, he goes into examples of that. Two of the biggest ones were phones and the internet. So the first phone was created in 1849, and in its first 50 years, it was put everywhere because it was such a revolutionary hit, such as offices, homes, restaurants, offices, you name it, it was there. Fast forward 150 to 200 years now we have iPhones that do everything for us, which is insane to really think about. And that leads to the next example that he went over, the bigger one and more interesting one to me, the internet. So the internet became around the 1980s, 1990s. And right now, it's being used as as he said, and I found this interesting, a more convenient way of communication. How many of you guys would say since COVID, you have Zoom and emailed more than ever before? Exactly, and why? Because it's more convenient. Why would I want to go to a face-to-face meeting when I could do it on Zoom? That's kind of the way he was wanting us to think about it, and I really enjoyed that part. But with that convenience, there comes the next part I want to talk about. Well, here's the evidence of that. I don't even know what that is, but now we can see that it's just evolved to a smartphone. The first one right here.
It's a freaking pager.
It's a pager. Yeah.
I used
But-
to have that.
Getting into that, there's risk. Everything has a risk. I mean, I'm risking myself standing up here right now. So does communication technology. So after reading an academic article from Emily Drogolet, it was titled, "The Effects of Technology on Face-to-Face Communication." It goes over a lot of the risks that happen and the way we're losing communication skills. The first study that she went over a group of students, teenagers, that were on their phones and how much they used it. Out of those 100 students, 60% of them said they're on their phone for 4 hours a day. So, I mean, that's not bad. But then 18% were on their phone for at minimum 8 hours a day. That's 1/3 of your day on your phone. Sometimes that's an entire day for people. I was thinking, man, I don't even want to know the rest, and I'm happy I didn't find it when I was reading the academic article. But that leads to another thing. A lot of the times we communicate with people now is through technology. Another study that she went over was a lot of times we just want to communicate because it's convenient through technology. How many of you guys been at home and let's say your mom's downstairs or in a different room and, hey, what is for dinner? Instead of going into like the kitchen asking, well, what's for dinner? The amount of times I've done that, I'm like, man, that was such a bad habit. I could have had a conversation, but instead I just did the convenient thing of texting her. So Emily Drago goes into, this is a problem for us. Because now we just want to find the more convenient thing. And the last study that was really important to me was the one that went over the amount of students that were in one room and being surveyed what they were doing. Out of that 134 students, 78 of them were on their phone just doing whatever, and another 21 of them were on either their phone, listening to music, talking, or whatever. No one was communicating face to face. It shows how dangerous this is because we are losing skills to talking with each other, and when we are asked to talk to each other, we're not necessarily ready for it. So with risk, and I know it sounds like, and here's an example, a perfect example. A group of people are with each other, but they're talking through the phone. And that's just dangerous to me. So the last slide, and another one that's not pulling up, is balance. It's hard for us to balance. How many of you guys would say that as a college student, it is very hard to balance? It is very hard to balance. Technology has become such an integral part of our lives, it's hard to balance things. But we have to find a balance. At first I was sketchy because it was a blog, but the more I read it, I was like, you know what, this is actually really good. It went over a lot of ways we could do this. It was called Balancing Technology and Human Interaction, Maintaining Connections in a Digital World from Tegan Wright. And the only thing that I want to go over is that we need to build habits and we need to build a foundation. And he went over workforces that set foundational rules, such as they have a certain amount of time on using technology for their assignments, and they have a certain time for talking to each other. And they all agree to do this, so they know that they have to talk to each other in person and use technology. You find the right balance. And I think that's something we can all do, whether it's in work, at home, in class, or whatever the situation is. We can find a balance of usage. And with all that being said, now that we've gone over evolution, and again, here's an example of that. Everyone's using technology, but they're also talking to each other in person. And now that we've gone over evolution, we've gone over the risk, and we've gone over the balance, and now that we know that communication and technology will forever be integrated with each other, and they will forever be apart, it's
Sorry, sir.
and